What is up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. Oh my god, that gets me so hyped every time. Especially today, I don't know why. I guess I got a little, I don't know, I just got into it. I'm so glad to be here with you guys on a Sunday afternoon to talk about FPV. And answer your questions. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Every time, once years ago, someone thought that, like, my desk was dusty. And it made me paranoid. I was like, I don't know. It made me paranoid. Every time the live stream comes on, I don't want to dust off my desk. What can I say? In case you're new, well, if you're new to the live stream, first of all, welcome to the live stream. It's good to have you here. If this is your first live stream, say hi in the chat. Say, hey, it's my first live stream. What the hell? Let's see how many people it's their first time. We don't do that every stream. If you are new here, or if you don't know how this works, the way that it works is you will ask questions in the chat. I will answer questions in the chat. That's answer questions, not in the chat. I'm sorry. I'll answer questions here live for you. I will take your questions from the YouTube chat, and we do make a point of answering everyone's questions, not just the people who are my patrons or the people who leave super chats. I make a point. In fact, we start the live stream with like 20, 25 minutes of taking free questions. But you know, it is a world. It is, you know, until universal basic income is a thing, we do give a little bit of priority to the patrons and the super chatters. And the patrons are over here, right on the right-hand side on my Discord server. Give a little priority there. Seems the right thing to do. And also, during the live streams anyway, if you leave a super chat, that's how to get the top priority. We don't answer the super chats the instant they come in. I like to keep the stream flowing, but a little later in the stream, usually getting close to the half-hour mark, we'll start doing the super chat. So get those queued up if you want to make sure that I get your question. That's how it works. I do want to real quick acknowledge this comment from Alexander Vishin. Love the Ukrainian color of your keyboard. Yep, people were wondering what was up with my keycaps. Alexander has figured it out. This is this was sent to me by a viewer. It was sent to me by a viewer. A set of beautiful keycaps, and I really appreciated it. And as a so let's see. Here we go. Ready? Okay, hold on. Oof. Okay, ready? Oh, wow, I'm so far off. I can't touch type. I don't know why I thought I could touch type. There we go. Oh, what the hell? That's not the right letter. There you go. Well, anyway, that's why it's good that I have the keycaps. That's why it's good that I have the keycaps, because I can't touch type. But thank you very much to the beautiful person who sent me that. Yeah. Oh man, I would have been so impressed with myself if I'd actually spelled it right without looking, and you would have been impressed too. But no, that's going to be a big fat no. Anyway, I can touch type real good in English. Not so much not in English. All right, let's get to the questions. Lepiaf Dunid says, Bonjour de France. And I tagged that one as well because I feel... I made a little joke in a previous live stream, a little joke at the expense of the French. And I'm not gonna rehash that all. It was just a little joke at the expense of the French. And later I thought, I have French viewers, and I wouldn't want any of them to take that personally or feel like I was, And I thought, bonjour. Right? Good. Okay. Now then. What do we got here? Let's take a good question. Here's a question from Vito89 who says, is 5-inch better for starters than 4-inch? I tried 3-inch in liftoff. I like it more than 4 or 5-inch. Well, if you like 3-inch better in liftoff, then maybe you should start with 3-inch or 3.5-inch. 5-inch, I would tell a beginner to choose either 3 or 3.5-inch or 5-inch, but not 4-inch. And the main reason for that is that there are very few 4-inch builds out there. The motors are in this weird place where, you'll typically see a 4-inch build with 2004 motors or one of the T-mount motors. And those motors are right at the very top of what is used with T-mount props. And they have very thin motor shafts. I don't mean the shaft that goes into the prop, but literally the shaft that goes down through the bearing. And as a result, those motors tend to be damaged really easily. Whereas there aren't a ton of 4-inch props. There aren't a ton of frames made for 4-inch. It's just this weird no man's zone where you might as well just go with 5-inch. So I would say 4-inch just can be really fun, but you will have a lot more choice in equipment, and your equipment will be a lot more durable if you go down to 3 or 3.5 or up to 5. 4 inches is in a weird place where you really have to want it. I don't think it should be your first build. Just Mo asks, I have the HD0 goggles and I want to buy a Cinewhoop to film events. What would be the best option for me? Should I buy a Walksnail VRX with the Moonlight or buy DJI goggles with the O3? I want a capable system with little errors. Just Mo, when you say I want a capable system that's easy to use, I feel like that's the DJI system. Not that the Walksnail system is hard to use or complicated, but little things like firmware updating and so on with Walksnail, just a little more complicated. I honestly think the image quality of the DJI O3 is superior to the Walksnail Moonlight, although the Walksnail Moonlight is pretty good. I actually have a review of the Caddx Infra. I'm sorry. No, that's already out. The Caddx GoFilm 2.0. There we go. The Caddx GoFilm 2.0, which is a 2-inch Cinewhoop with the Walksnail Moonlight on board, made by Caddx. It's coming out on my channel next week. And it's pretty good. But, if you are on the fence, if it's a coin toss between Walksnail and DJI, I think DJI is the winner. The main reasons that people go away from DJI don't usually relate to the actual performance of the video link. They relate to other factors that steer people away. And if those factors aren't in play for you, which it sounds like they're not, I would point you towards the DJI O3. How can I wire a Blackbox logger to the Happy Model 2G4 flight controller? Well, let's look. So a Blackbox logger just wires up to the UART. So let's look at this flight controller and see how many UARTs are available. A lot of times on these little AIO flight controllers, there aren't a lot of UARTs. Let me just zoom this out real quick. What we really need is a wiring diagram. There is no wiring diagram. Surely there must... A Happy Model website is really frustrating. Like, if you go to the support page, support manual... Oh, damn it. That is not what I meant to do. Support manuals. It's just a blog-style layout, chronological. So, like, how do you find the actual product that you want? It's... I don't know if there's a better way to do that. So let's try this. Let's just try searching for manual. Nope. This is very frustrating. Why is the manual not linked on the damn product page? Is it? Feels like half of my, here we go. Maybe this is what I want. Feels like half my live streams are complaining about websites and documentation. Boy, it does not look like there's any spare UARTs, does it? It does not look like there's any spare UARTs. Oh, how about on this side? Oh, that's better. Okay, so what do we got? Zoom in. We've got TX2 and RX2, that's UART2. We got TX1 and RX1, that's UART1. That's good. The receiver is built in, and it's an SPI-based receiver, so that is not going to conflict with any of your UARTs. You're good to go there. You got a receiver. Hopefully, one of those two UARTs is free. Either TX2 and RX2 or TX1 and RX1. So then... your Blackbox logger is going to have a TX and an RX and a 5-volt and a ground, and it's going to just wire up like any other UART-based peripheral. RX to TX, TX to RX, 5-volt and ground, and away you go. Yeah, hopefully that has been what you were looking for. Here's a question from Slartabartfast on the Discord. Thank you for being a patron, Slartabartfast. Have you ever considered doing a beginner wing build? Many of us have only done drones and not wings. I know there are others, but JB Instruction's the best. That's very kind of you to say. I have thought about getting some wing stuff, maybe just for fun to branch out and, you know. I couldn't give you a date. It is something that has crossed my mind, though. I'll say that. Is there an all-in-one charger for 1S to 4S? Alejandro Alvarez. Alejandro, any LiPo charger can charge down to 1S. But the problem is that 1S batteries are so small that if you're charging them one at a time, you spend a lot of time just sitting there cycling batteries. If you fly tiny whoops, like if you fly a 5-inch drone or even a 3-inch drone, you probably are going to have 5 or 7 or 10 batteries you're going to charge. You're going to charge them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you're going to go out and fly. But if you've got a tiny whoop, I mean, you are constantly charging batteries. A day of flying, you could go through 30 packs, right? And so, whereas a day of flying a larger quad, 10 packs on a 5-inch quad that's you know, like mentally it's stressful and takes time, and tiny whoops, you tend to go through the packs a lot faster. So with a 1S charger, you really want the ability to very quickly just put the pack on the charger and go, and have more than one pack going at a time. And it's not that that's not true with bigger batteries. Like, people have parallel charge boards, so they can charge 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 larger batteries at a time, right? But the difference is that with parallel charging, you have to put all the batteries on the board at the same time, start the charge cycle, and then a half hour later, or however long it is, your charge cycle's done and your batteries are charged. But with tiny whoop batteries, it's often the case that you're just like, I finished and plug in. I go fly with the next one. I finished and plug in. And you want them all to kind of be charging at whatever state they're at without you having to kind of manage them. That's why, in my opinion, a lot of people use dedicated 1S chargers. Like, this one right here is the V-Fly. Well, this is actually the V-Fly Tooth Store. It's a dedicated 2S charger, but there's a 1S version. It's probably back there on the bench or something. And they like that. The other thing about a 1S charger is it's very easy to build a 1S charger that can just take power from USB-C or from just a battery bank, and you just have it, you just plug it in, and you carry it anywhere you need to go. It's very small and compact. Whereas the larger chargers that go up to 6S, they're a lot bigger, and there's a lot of wasted space. If you're just going out to fly your tiny whoop, you don't need all that wasted space. If you do want to charge your 1S batteries with a bigger 6S charger, you should consider getting something like this. This is a series charging board. This particular one is made by VFly, but there's a bunch of them. In fact, if we go to my website, fpvknowitall.com, and go to the Tiny Whoop page, where is the battery chargers for Tiny Whoops? Here are suggested battery chargers for Tiny Whoops. And here are some series charging boards I've got links to. The Happy model board, the Fractal board. I should actually add the VFly board. I didn't actually know it existed until now. But these are all series charging boards, and they let you charge 4 or 6 1S batteries off of a bigger charger and make that a little bit more convenient. Okay. Great question. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Stryker says if I read his whole comment, their whole comment, I'll cry tears of joy. So now I'm searching for the comment. Stryker, I do have the new Air 65. I see it plenty. I do have the new Air 65. I will be working on it. Siati says it's the best thing ever, and that means a lot to me. Stryker's comment. Oh, I see. Stryker has a $5 super chat. It's not quite time to read the super chats yet, but Stryker wants to know who is more Skibbity Sigma, Pomini Digital, Fortnite, Chamba Free, GigaChad, Riz, OMG, Flu, Extentation, me, or KSP Aviation? I mean, how would I know? I can only judge based on your names. You super chatted me $5. And I like the name Striker FPV more than I like the name Slow Food FPV. So I'm going to go with you. You are the Sigma Rizzler. Okay. Were you going to tell me something, Plenty? Were you going to point out the comment?
I was just letting you know it was the super chat, so we would get to it.
Oh, gotcha. I mean, if we cry tears of joy, I mean, how could I say no? How could I say no? Can analog OSD chips be tested in any way? Asks FPV Avery. I've troubleshot a flight controller to death, and all I can think is the OSD chip is fried. Yeah, I mean, it's just process of elimination, dude. There's like, I don't know how you would like test it. You would just get, I mean, if you've eliminated all the other possible things and your OSD is not working on that flight controller, then must be the OSD chip is fried. They can be fried, absolutely. Mr. Seal is taking a trip to Europe and meeting some pilots. Any plan to do the same, Vincent Fabre? That sounds cool. I do not have a plan to do the same, no. I mean, that's cool, but not really. Like, what is he doing? Why is he in Europe? What's, like, meeting up people? Got the bug, I guess. Thank you for asking. Razoon. I want it to be raccoon. I like raccoons. Hey Joshua, I want to get into FPV and I'm thinking about getting the TBS Tango 2, DJI Goggles 2, and a 5-inch drone. Could you recommend that? And what 5-inch drone would you recommend? Thanks a lot. I don't not recommend the TBS Tango 2, but I have to say the TBS Tango 2 runs Crossfire. It's not that the TBS Tango 2 can't also do ExpressLRS. With an external module adapter, it can. But the main reason to buy the Tango 2 is that you want to do Crossfire. So the first thing I would ask is why you're choosing to lock yourself into Crossfire when the vast majority of people in the hobby these days are going to ExpressLRS. And it's not just that, like, the crowd is always right, but there are reasons why the crowd is going that way. And I think you should make sure you are fully sort of aware of those reasons before you kind of lock yourself into Crossfire without knowing what maybe you're giving up. The Tango 2 is a solid controller. The form factor is the main thing it has going for it. And, of course, the built-in Crossfire. But it doesn't run EdgeTX. It runs FreedomTX, which is based on OpenTX, but it means that firmware updates come from TBS, and that means that they're not always up to date when EdgeTX releases new firmware. You sometimes don't get the features and improvements. It has to sort of filter through TBS. Maybe you don't care about that. And the gimbals on it are the gimbals on the frickin' Tango 2 are the frickin' Achilles heel of the whole thing. It's a great radio, but they did something weird with the way the gimbals work, and it means they constantly go out of calibration, and you're constantly having to recalibrate them. And it's kind of like having some British sports car from the 80s. Like, it's beautiful and wonderful and made with love, but like a little temperamental, I guess I would say. What 5-inch drone do you recommend? Well, these days, I got to get the Emax Eco added. So on my website, fpvknowitall.com, I do have a section for 5-inch freestyle drones and parts. I actually got to add the iFlight Nazgul Eco, the cheap, the $200 one. That's a good choice. I just did a review of it. Joshua Bardwell, Nazgul Eco. The Nazgul Eco is worth a look. I've got a full review up on my channel, and I suggest you check that out. They actually raised the price. It's $215 now, not $200, but still one of the best deals in all of FPV. Another one that you might consider is the GEP-RC Mark V, which is also quite good. Yeah, we have to replace the Nazgul V3 with the Nazgul Eco. In my opinion, that's the better deal, just because it's a little less expensive. How's the Darwin 240 doing? Is that still... That's even a little cheaper still. I think the Eco's a better buy, even at $215. It's like $20, $23 more. I think that's worth it. Anyway. Okay, we're coming up on the half hour. Now it's time to do Super Chats. We currently have 3 Super Chats. We got this one from Stryker. Rob Axelson says, a small thanks for all your help. My wife's middle school class Tiny Hawks would be grounded without your instructional videos. Thank you so much, Rob. That's so kind of you to say. And I'm very happy to hear that there's a bunch of middle school kids out there flying Tiny Hawks with a little bit of help from my videos. Thank you for your $5 super chat. Jafriamel says, I'm new to ExpressLRS. What baud rate should I be using? The TX16S and the RP 1.5-inch drone. Thank you for a $10 super chat. You should use the fastest baud rate that you can without getting errors. So the baud rate needs to be high enough to support the packet rate. The baud rate is how fast the radio talks to the module. Okay? So if the packet rate goes up to a point where it hits the ceiling of the communication between the radio and the module, then you won't be able to go any faster. And in fact, the radio will detect that and will not let you... Will it not let you go? Will it force a baud rate to go up? Or will it not let you select a different packet rate? I think that the radio knows when the baud rate is too low. I can't remember how that exactly works. But what you want to do is you want to set the baud rate as high as you can. Okay? I believe it's 5 megabaud is the max. And you want to look at the error counter. So there's an error counter next to the baud rate. And if the error counter is going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, counting up, then you need to lower the baud rate. Something is wrong. That's the short version. But you want the baud rate as high as you can without getting errors. That's it. That's all the super chats. We're done? No. Usually when I start reading Super Chats, I just keep reading them until no more Super Chats have come in. And that means that this is your cue, if you want me to answer your question promptly, to leave Super Chats. I will, here, a couple more are coming in. So if you want to leave Super Chats and hear them read almost immediately, now's the time. By the way, if you're not able to leave a Super Chat because of your financial situation or for any other reason, you're still welcome to email me. jb@joshuabardwell.com is my email address. I answer almost all of the emails I get. Why don't I answer all of the emails I get? For reasons that we won't go into. I answer almost all of the emails that I get, typically within about a day, sometimes a little longer. If you're one of the little longer ones, then I apologize. But if you can't Super Chat me, well, it might mean that your question doesn't get read on stream, but it doesn't have to mean that your question won't get answered. Okay? What's the best way to secure the UFL antenna to the VTX? Thank you for a $2 Super Chat, Comic Sniper. Comic Sniper, the best way is to buy a VTX that has retention. Now, I know that's not always going to be an option, but many VTX come with a little retention bar or some other way of retaining the UFL, and those are very valued by me. I value those a lot. If you have a VTX that has a UFL that doesn't have retention, then what I like to do is rotate the UFL 180 degrees so the wire comes back up over the board, and then use a zip tie to retain the wire, or maybe even tape around the whole thing. If you do that, you want to be really careful because on some pieces of electronics, when you rotate the UFL around, the metal of the UFL connector will touch like a capacitor on the board or something, and that can cause problems. So you got to be careful that that's not happening. But that's what I'll do is I'll bend it 180 degrees back so the wire comes back over the board, and I'll tape it down or zip tie it down. Joe GFPV, thank you for a $20 Super Chat. I'm having trouble getting my brand new Mamba F722 Mini to connect to Betaflight. I can flash it, but no matter what, it still won't connect. Joe, the number one reason for that to happen would be if you're flashing the wrong target. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and see if I can identify the target name for this. Well, here is the BLW32 target for the ESC. And here we can see that there are 3 different firmwares you can flash depending on which gyro is on the board. So my guess is that that's where you're going wrong. My guess is you're flashing a target with the wrong gyro driver. Now, are these in Betaflight configurator? They are. Mamba F722, F722A, and F722B. So my guess is that you're flashing the wrong target out of all of these, and that would cause what you're getting here. What you need to do is you need to identify which gyro is on your flight controller. Or you just need to flash them one after the other and see which one works, if any of them. All right. That's the best answer I can give to that question. I'm trying to pay attention to the chat to see if he says, I did that already. I don't know. Hallo, guten Tag und schöne Grüße aus Germany. Alemania. I am dreaming of meeting you sometime. Great content. Did you ever have hands on a Foxeer FT256 or greater? I've never had hands on that camera, no. No, that's the, I think, is that the thermal camera? FT256. Yeah, no, I've never had hands on that camera. If you are thinking about getting a thermal camera like the Foxeer FT256, this is a really good price for a thermal camera. $500. Like, what do you need a thermal camera for? Let's just say it's for industrial inspection, shall we? These cameras are not sort of the panacea for FPV that people might think they are. Yes, the price is really good, but take a look at the field of view. 25 by 19 degrees. They have an extremely narrow field of view. They are very zoomed in. You can't fly off of one of these. You have to use this as a supplemental camera, like you use your normal FPV camera to fly close to whatever it is you're looking at, and then you switch to this camera and it's like on a gimbal and you can tilt it around and look at what you want to look at. But they're very cool. It's very cool that you can get them at this low price point these days. I've never personally used that exact one. Mike Ekim says, hey, JB, I want to get into long range with the Gepard Bind and Fly Mark IV LR8. What would be the ideal size? 7, 8, 9 inch, and what size batteries are ideal? Thank you for a $10 super chat, Mike. For long range, generally the bigger the prop, the better. 7 inch is fine for long range, and you're going to have a better selection of props. 8 and 9 inch, 9 inch will carry a heavier battery and give you longer flight times. So there's no right answer there. 7, 8, 9, each one is just a little bit more efficient, will carry just a little bit more weight than the previous one, but there certainly are more really good 7 inch props out there, whereas 8 inch and 9 inch are just not that popular, and it's a little bit catch as catch can. And then as far as how big of a battery, for a 7 inch long range, a typical battery would be like an 8,000 milliamp hour 6S lithium ion. So that would be something like 6S 2P, 21700 cells. Look for something like an 8,000 milliamp hour 6S lithium ion. For 8 inch and 9 inch, it would get bigger, but I'm not really sure. Like, they would definitely be lithium ion packs. I'm not really sure the exact milliamp hours off the top of my head. Okay. We got one more here from Matthew Gillet, or Gillette. Thank you for a €10 super chat. I built my first drone 3 weeks ago and it flies great, but the motors are a little hot. Is this normal? As long as they're hot, but not like burning hot, yeah, it would be fine. It would be fine. I wouldn't worry about it. As long as they were a little warm, that's okay. Genjitsu, thank you for a $18 super chat. My finances for the past few years have not been so good and almost took me out. Thank you for the great information that you've given all us. Thank you so much, Genjitsu, for your donation. Let's see, what do we got here? Sunshine is asking me about this video put out by Stu, UAV Futures, about a new website.
FPV. This site is built by FPV pilots for FPV pilots. The reason that this started, it started with me and another gentleman called Tom's, and he has like his own web agency of developing some really cool websites for some huge places around the world. However, this was a passion project, and he got talking to me, and then what's like this as to what this is. So what DIY FPV is?
Yeah, show me.
That you'll be really excited about is this right here. So if I go to the builder, and we have moved, like this is like for web. One of the cool things about it, even though I accidentally opened this site up, I guess, to you guys, this page right here, it is like an early version of what we've worked on. And so this is just the Then what you're able to do is say you want to wire it up to your flight controller. There is like a really easy way. You can simply grab some of these and you can make a direct connection to something else that you're working on, whether you want to be putting in your buzzer or wiring up your VTX and those sorts of things and doing your RX and your TX and all those sorts of things. So we're going to be having this as part of the builder where if you might be saying, hey, I will not know how do I wire this up? You might be wanting to ask a friend, or you might want to say some easy ways for some wiring diagrams. How does this actually work? Is this the other part as well? If we jump over here, is we have, and this is early days as well. some stores in Australia as well. Like we've got Phaser.
Show me more products. Show me how many.
Here, what this does is you'll be able to take this, add it to either your backpack or something like that. Like if you did want to buy it, fantastic. If we're going to streamline that process of like, what part do I want? Where's the cheapest place I can get that?
Wow.
And where actually has it in stock and can ship it to me and those sorts of things. But the part I'm excited about is you can take this, you can then take it over to your builder, or you can add it to the build that you want.
That's really clever.
To offer you guys as well. Website down a
Wow.
little, not lock it down, but like restrict it on what we're opening up to.
That's pretty clever. I've had that idea. I'm not trying to don't take that the wrong way. A lot of people have had that idea. This is the first time I've seen somebody actually implement it. The challenge that I've always struggled with was if you're going to have like a builder that can create wiring diagrams, then you have to maintain metadata for the flight controllers and all the components. That metadata would be like, here are the output pads that this device has. Like some flight controllers would have a 9 volt, some would have a 12 volt, some would have 3 UARTs, some would have 5 UARTs. For every piece of, for every component in the database, you have to maintain that metadata so that then the wiring diagrams, are correct. That's a monumental task. And this is the first time I've seen somebody actually act like they were going to tackle it. So that's very interesting. Yeah. And then as far as the inventory stuff goes, that seems similar to what we've got here, which is the FPV product search over at searchfpv.com, where you can search for a product, and it will show you which stores have it in stock and so forth. This has been around for, gosh, it's got to have been at least a year, maybe more, probably more. And it sees some traffic. But I think combining that with something like a builder, if they can keep that builder actually updated with like the actual pinout information of all the equipment, which is, that's like a full-time job. But if they can keep that updated, that'll be very cool. And it sounds like it would be pretty simple to write some kind of logic that would automatically create a wiring diagram given a set of components.
I just want to say, like, the issue I have with this is you can't do this. This will not work out, and the reason is because you can't keep up with all the components. You think you can, and you can't. It's just impossible, right? Mamba makes a new revision of a board, and then you don't have the new wiring diagram. You don't have the changes that happened in the UART switching, right? You're not going to get it right. It'll be close to right, and then everybody will assume it's correct, and then it'll be wrong, and then it'll be useless for what it's supposed to be for, right? That's the problem.
Yeah, that's why. So in the past, I have thought, I want to make this website. I will hire somebody and pay somebody to write this code. And I have always stopped because I've thought, okay, I'm going to spend, you might spend $5,000 paying someone. If you could get somebody to do it on the promise that they'll be part owner of the site and any money the site make, maybe you could find a coder with some spare time who did it in his spare time. But if you hired somebody to write this, I easily think you would spend $5,000 and maybe more. But let's say whatever you spend it. And now you've got this system where you can say, okay, here's a product. It's the Diatone Mamba F722 V4. Here's what it looks like. Here are all the stores that have it in stock. And here is the pinout diagram for it. You need to describe to the program all of the pads on the flight controller. I actually thought that it would be really cool if you associated it with an image map so that the system knows that TX2 is right here on the image, and you could literally create a wiring diagram with lines going around it. But at the very least, it would need to know this flight controller has 5 UARTs, a TX2, RX2, 5 volt ground, etc. And then as soon as V5 comes out, there are so many new flight controllers coming out. And so then I thought, well, if we only have wiring information for 4 popular flight controllers, I guess that's okay, but it's you really want to have whatever people would want to use. Maybe you could use AI? Could you use AI? Oh, maybe, I don't know. but it's just like a huge amount of manual labor. And I always thought, well, I don't know how to solve that problem, and then I didn't do it. Then I didn't do it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, but
I love people saying, that's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
AI can do it. Yep.
Well, AI. The thing is,
Please stop.
AI. The problem is that AI needs to be manually checked. AI is great at doing like large language models. Whatever, that's a better word for what we're talking about. Like there are large language models that do image processing, and you could hand them an image and say how many oranges are in this picture, and they'll count the oranges and they'll give you an answer. But you always need them to. You always need to double check their work, right? And especially for something like if the AI says, "I think there's approximately 275 oranges in this picture," and it turns out there was 280. Well, that's pretty good. But if you are doing something where you need absolute correctness, you can't just rely on AI to parse it for you. You're going to have the AI or the large language model do the first pass, and then somebody's going to check it. My point is, like, how do you even keep up with all the new flight controllers and hardware that's out there? This is everything. Every receiver, every VTX, every flight controller, every ESC. At the very least, every camera, at the very least, has to have its metadata added to the database if the wiring creator is going to be any good. And, yeah. Maybe what you could do is this. Here's how you could solve this. Like, now I'm trying to problem solve in my own head. What you do is you say, oh, guess what? That flight controller that you wanted to use, it doesn't have metadata yet. Hey, guess what? Will you do me a favor? Will you click on all the 5-volt pads in this diagram? Tick, 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 tick. Okay, do me a favor. Click on TX1, TX2. You somehow get the user who wants the wiring diagram to do the metadata for you. That might work. Off-axis says the companies would supply their own info and wiring diagrams to the site when released. No, they won't. You know how I know they won't do that? Because Betaflight, in Betaflight 4.4, when they released the generic targets, they said, manufacturers, it is your responsibility to update your targets for Betaflight 4.4. We are not going to do it for you anymore. You need to do it. You have 3 months to get this done. You have 6 months to get this done, however long they gave them. And a whole bunch of them didn't do it. A whole bunch of targets in Betaflight were not correctly updated for Betaflight 4.4. Because the vendors just didn't do it. So the idea that the vendors are going to, every time they release a new revision, every time they change their wiring diagram, they're going to go to this website, which doesn't pay them any money, and they're going to be responsible. No, you will have to keep up for it. Anyway. But I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on it. I'm saying that this is good. This is like what my approach to any good idea is to say, that's a great idea. Oh, here's where it's going to fail. And then to try to start problem solving that, right? Right? Until you succeed.
The problem is if you can't ever actually trust it 100%, you have to go look up every wiring diagram anyway, so that feature isn't helpful, right? I think that's part of the problem. And that's fine. It doesn't have to be. But then you talk about, okay, what about part compatibility? Well, how can you guarantee that? Because what if the plugs changed on a revision, right? Or if the plug order changed? How do you know if I need to repin? Are you going to tell me that or not? Probably not. So you can just say, okay, D-shot and a flight controller, that means they all work together, right? So, you know what I mean? You start going through it and you're like, what are you actually adding as a value add for people to visit if they can trust it? And I understand we're not trying to shit up, but also we're here to talk about the product because somebody asked about the product, right? So I'm explaining why the product, you know.
I think it would be amazing if somebody took that on. But what I would predict is, so the way that this site's going to make money is either by paid subscriptions. Did it have a paid subscription? I think it did. So it's going to have paid subscriptions, which there aren't going to be very many of those. There just aren't. Like that, a subscription site's very hard. Or it's going to be or it's going to be advertising, which if it collects traffic, they could make some money with advertising. Or it's going to be affiliate sales or affiliate sales. I could see a site like this making, I'm just going to wild ass guess a number. A site like this could make between $5,000 and $15,000 a month. Like, I'm just pulling that number out of my butt, but it's like not complete fantasy. It's based on some things I know about the industry. That would be my guess. As a top end, it could probably make, when it first opens, it's going to make $200, maybe not even that. But eventually, if it's heavily promoted, maybe it would be worthwhile to sell advertising to get users onto the site. And anyway, if it really hits its stride, I think could pull $5,000 to $15,000 a month. And at that point, you could hire some employees to do the updates, and maybe it would become a business model. It looks really good, but I think a lot of people
order every flick, right?
I don't know. I don't know, Blinty. I don't know. Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky. People would always have to verify because shit changes so much. That's the thing. So often the information that's out there is incorrect or is out of date, or the company lists the V3, but they're shipping the V4. There's just so much bullshit. But still, the ability to create a wiring diagram from scratch and help people lay it out, there's some value there. And I would love to see it succeed. I want to see it. If it feels like we're hating on it, then let that drive it to succeed, because it's pretty cool. And I can't wait to see what Stu does with it.
If you can't put out information about a product and be okay with people chopping it down, then it's not a product you should be working on. That's where I'm at with it, right? You should have done all this in your head. You should have had all these conversations and expect what people are going to tell you back.
Well, maybe they have.
Know, right? That's what I mean.
Do we know?
That's what I'm saying.
Do
That's
we
why
know?
this isn't a problem. That's why it's not a problem
Stu's
to
plan?
knock it down, because we're just talking about it. We're discussing the issues with the service, right? And it's my problem isn't that I don't think they can do it. I don't think they can pay people. I think it's literally impossible to do based on the information available to people out there in our products. They're only going to hit X%, and they're going to be X revisions per time. You know what I mean? We didn't post it until 5 weeks later. We didn't even get a firmware. I can't even get a firmware for this board, right? I don't know, stuff like that.
Yeah. I'll tell you, this is why when I decided to make a website to try to help, the hobby and, help myself, obviously, there's two sides to that coin. I decided that the best investment of my time was a shopping list website where I make product recommendations and provide technical information, right? But I'm not going to try to, you'll notice that I almost never talk about the price of an item because the prices change so much, right? So the idea is, this is a good product. I recommend it. Here is an affiliate link. Right? But it's not, But you know what? Let's see what happens. I want to know what Stu's plan is.
Related to, since you just brought the website up, a couple people have asked in chat when you're updating the website.
Constantly.
How often that gets.
Constantly. Okay. Just this morning, I did some updates on the GPS section. I handed those updates to the guy who actually does the edits. So if you look at the page right now, it hasn't changed. But we're getting rid of all the M8 GPSs and we're adding M10 GPSs and replacing them. I actually also, by coincidence, in the last week, two of the guys from my Discord are going through and trying to do a more thorough job of looking for out-of-date links or discontinued products, and that will be rolling out. There is no update schedule where I updated it. I updated every page. It's just a constant process of, this section is a little out of date. There's a new product I need to add. For example, have I added the Cadix Moonlight? I can't remember. I think I have, but I'm not sure I have. I just decided to add it. Where is HD Digital FPV systems. Is the Moonlight in here? It's going to be under Walksnail Avatar. No, see, I got to add the Moonlight. The Moonlight has finally, like, I never add new products just because new products came out. That's not my goal. Like, when a new product comes out, sometimes it's 4 months before I actually add it to the website because I want to see what happens and learn about it and learn how it fits in. The Moonlight has gotten good enough that I'm like, okay, I'm going to put you down. Frankly, the fact that it's a unique product and does 4K recording, it's the only thing. It probably could have been added earlier, but I didn't rush to do it. So the website is constantly being updated. If someone, like, I'm always up for help because, like, if you're using the website and you're spending hours a week on the website looking at it, you're probably looking at it more than I do on a daily basis because, like, I maintain it, but I don't, like, sit there and pore over it. So if you have specific suggestions or if that's something that you think you can help with, I'm always open to have a little extra help with things that you've noticed that I might have overlooked. But the process of updating it is continuous. Yeah. All right. Continuing on. Let me take a couple more. We're going to get back to the super chats. We've had some more super chats come in, but we're going to take a couple more questions just from the regular chat just to make sure that everybody's getting a chance to have their question answered. Let's see. I'm a beginner in FPV. My GPS connected to TX4. Does that mean it's on UART4? That is correct. In the ports tab, you are on UART4. Will your DJI OSD 4.4 preset work on Betaflight 4.5? No. But you should be using, don't use whatever experimental preset. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. The 4.4 OSD presets are different on 4.5. Many of the settings are the same, but not all of them. I'm actually not sure what preset you're referring to be honest. So, hello. What preset are you referring to? Hello, hello. What are we doing? Hang on. Bonk. Badunk. Apologies. That's my computer, not yours. Apologies for the USB noises. What's this JB OSD experimental preset? Is it this one? I don't know about that. I think you should use the official preset, not my experimental preset. I'll say that. But a 4.4 preset may not work on 4.5. If all the preset does is lay out the OSD elements, it mostly will work. But if it's doing the VTX setup, it will not work. The VTX setup changed for digital VTXs between 4.4 and 4.5. The commands are not the same. For 6S 1300 milliamp hours, how many amps is safe? The answer to that question is always 1C. To get 1C, look at the milliamp hours, convert it to amps, and that's how you do it. 1300 milliamp hours, 1.3 amps. It doesn't have to be exactly 1.3 amps. It could be 1.0, it could be 1.5, but 1.3 amps is 1C. It doesn't matter if it's 6S, 4S, 2S, 1S, or 27S. If it's 1300 milliamp hours, then the 1C charge rate is 1.3 amps. It's very, very simple. So how about a 4S 3000 lithium ion? The fact that it's lithium ion doesn't matter. The fact that it's 4S doesn't matter. 3000 milliamp hours, 3 amp charge rate is 1C. That's your answer. What's your preference for freestyle / long range? HD0 or DJI goggles 2? to be completely honest with you, HD0 is only my preference for racing. If you really wanted to go long range, HD0 would be better than DJI. DJI has a hard cap. Depending on what hardware you're using, it's between 13 and like 23 kilometers. I think there's a combination. Blunty, you don't have to fill me in because it doesn't matter. I always forget that there's like one combination that can go to 30 kilometers, I think. But the bottom line is that somewhere between 13 and like 30 kilometers, there's a hard cap where the DJI O3, the DJI Vista will not go any further, no matter how strong the signal is, no matter what antenna you use, it just drops off. It has something to do with the way that the radio system works. If you're going further than that, HD0 can be a winner. But the problem is this, HD0, there's no way to get increased output power. Theoretically, you could install an external amplifier on the aircraft. If it was a big frickin' aircraft, and you could get a 5-watt HD0 signal, theoretically you could do that. No one's doing that. So your HD0 VTX caps out at 1 watt, and that's it. And if you can go, however far you can go on 1 watt, if you got some really high gain antenna that gets you out to 50 kilometers, HD0 wins over DJI for long range. But if you are within that hard cap, the O3 is probably going to give you more usable range just because it's magically good at range. And the other thing you should keep in mind is that analog is there. So a lot of people who fly long range choose analog, even though the image quality is not the best, because when you're flying long range, well, what are you going to look at? You're going to look at the horizon? You're going to look at the trees on the ground? What do you need high resolution for? And with analog, you can crank that output power up. You can buy off the shelf a 10-watt VTX right now, an analog VTX. It's not legal to use in the U.S., but it doesn't stop a lot of people. So theoretically, analog is really the ultimate winner when it comes to long range. Blunty says, with the O3 and the Vista, when used with the goggles V2, the range limit is 13 kilometers. Yes, correct. Whenever you're using the V2 goggles, the range limit is 13 kilometers. On the G2 and the Integra, if you're using the Vista, you get 30 kilometers. And if you're using the O3, you get 23 kilometers. Okay, maybe next time I'll remember that, Blunty. I only have to be told something 3 or 4 times before it sticks. So, assuming that by long range you meant less than those hard caps, I would choose DJI. And if I needed to go further than those hard caps, I would think about using analog instead of HD0 because of the access to increased output power. I don't know why, and I'm sure there's a good reason. I don't know why HD0 doesn't release like a 2-watt or a 5-watt VTX. Like, at the end of the day, it's just an amplifier and it's just heat dissipation, but like, you put a big honking gigantic VTX with a fan on it, and you could have a more powerful VTX, and I think it would improve the position of HD0. I don't know, maybe there's a reason. Carl's a smart guy, and I'm sure he's thought of that, and there's a reason he's not doing it, but I've always sort of wondered that. From what I understand, the Goggles X have no built-in head tracking, and we need to wait for an external board to release to use it with their new gimbals. That's my understanding as well. Yes, I agree with that. You do what you want with that information. Ronald Harvey Jr. wants to know, what's the best and easiest way to update EdgeTX on my QX7? Although this is not the latest version of EdgeTX, I'm going to recommend you watch my video, How to Upgrade to EdgeTX. What's EdgeTX? This video shows what is, in my opinion, the simplest and easiest way to update, and it should work for your QX7. Baldman FPV says, I thought it was set in stone that the Moonlight footage was better than the O3 footage. Well, Baldman, that's obviously a matter of personal interpretation. However, let's examine that idea. I happen to have right here on my desktop the review of the Caddx GoFilm 2.0, rendered in glorious 4K. Now, I'm going to show you this footage, and I want you to understand that you're watching a live stream, and the footage that you're seeing right now is worse than what I'm seeing when I look on my screen, especially when the image is moving. This is a 4.5 megabit per second stream. 4.5 megabit per second. Those of you who know about video, that's not enough for that's barely enough for 1080p. It's really not. For 1080p, like really good quality, you want maybe 12 or 15 megabits per second. For 4K, you want like 50 to 75 or even 100 or 125 megabits per second, depending on the quality you want. So I'm going to show you this footage, but I want you to realize this is just kind of like a little bit of a exercise in fun and not definitive. But I have spent the last week looking at one of the footage from the GoFilm 2.0, and I got to find where it is. So like, here's the footage from the GoFilm 2.0. This is like just default settings. This is not color graded or anything like that. And it's not bad. Notice up here we've got onboard recording. Sometimes we'll be seeing the DVR. Oh, by the way, absolutely no question that the pilot feed for the O3 is better than the Walksnail. Like the range, penetration, image quality, everything that you see in the goggles is better, but I think we're talking about onboard recording. And this isn't bad. Like, it's not bad. By the way, this video will be coming out on my channel, so you'll get a chance to see it. Here's the goggles view. Notice that we've switched to goggles view, so don't judge based on that. If you're concerned more with the onboard recording, don't worry, we'll go back to the onboard recording. It's not bad. Notice though, like, here's onboard recording. We got some issues here. Like, there's a little bit of like, encoding, blocking here. Like, it's fine. And the colors are a little uninspiring. But you could always color grade it. All right, great. At the end of the video, I did a flight with the O3 air unit just as a comparison. I think it looks better. You could disagree, I guess. I think it looks better, though. One reason I think it looks better, I think the O3 has a wider angle lens. This is with stabilization on. When you turn stabilization on the Moonlight, it crops way the frick in. You could the O3 has a much wider angle lens, which lets it stabilize without cropping in too much. But like when you compare this footage to what the Moonlight looked like, I think the O3 just really pulls ahead. But I wouldn't say that someone who thought the Moonlight looked better was crazy. I think when the Moonlight first came out, it wasn't as good. I don't know if it's improved. Maybe it was just first impressions. But I think the O3 has the edge. That is the Flylens 2.0. How'd you know that, Maddie? Oh, I see. It's right here on screen. That is the Flywoo. Wait, Flylens. Oh, damn it. Flylens 85. I have to re-encode this video. That's a typo. It's the Flylens 85. Shit. That's not a thing. It's the Flylens 85. I can't believe this is a little 2-inch with a 750 milliamp hour battery, too. I can't believe a 2-inch flies this good. It's crazy. Dan Jennings says, well, how much of that is just the built-in saturation and contrast? I don't know. Like, the O3 can do log as well. Can the Moonlight do log video? Or flat video? I don't know. A 2-inch Cinewhoop. Obviously an open prop, lightweight 2-inch. The Roborito can do it. Can fly good. Okay. What is the legal limit of transmission output in the U.S.? When should one register? By register, do you mean get your ham license? There is no transmission power limit under which you are exempt from needing a ham license. That's a European thing. In Europe, if you're 25 milliwatts, I believe is the limit. If you're under 25 milliwatts, you don't need like their equivalent of a ham license. That does not exist in the U.S. If the transmitter you're using is not Part 15 certified, you need a ham license regardless of output power. That's a common misconception.
And just as an example, right? No analog VTXs have Part 15 because they're not FCC certified.
Absolutely
Most of the
none.
digital equipment is certified.
Yes, although the Vista is not Part 15 certified, is it?
Right.
Technically. Which is interesting because the original air unit was Part 15 certified. So presumably the Vista could be Part 15 certified, but they never actually submitted it. The O3 is Part 15 certified.
Notice says Part 15 with a question mark. I guess that's a good point. We never really explain what that means. So all that means is like each of these companies submits to the FCC with typically independent third-party testing and all the documentation to the FCC. The FCC approves all of the testing and output power based on that known quantities information, and then they give what's called a Part 15 certification to the device. That certification just means that anybody in the United States of America can use that device without a ham license. Essentially, that's what that's doing. And if you need to know if that exists, you can typically look on the manufacturer's website for an FCC ID number, and that'll be for each product. Or you can look up the company's FCC ID number and look through all their devices and then find it.
Yep. Good. That's absolutely right. Thank you, Plenty, for noticing that. Not everybody knows what Part 15 is. And that's why you can operate your cell phone or your Wi-Fi router without a ham license, because they are Part 15 certified. The approach that the FCC takes is that either you certify the user, and that's a ham license, and then the user knows what they can and can't do and is trusted to not break the rules, or you certify the device. And a Part 15 certified device can be used by someone without a ham license, but it is locked down. For example, a Part 15 device is not supposed to have antennas that are easy to swap, because you could put a high gain antenna on it and take it out of compliance. Okay? So like the idea is that a Part 15 device is locked down to make it sufficiently difficult for users to take it out of compliance. But almost none of the devices we use, the video transmitters specifically, are Part 15 certified. The DJI O3 is one. It is Part 15 certified. The original DJI Air unit, but not the Vista, is another Part 15 certified. Every DJI drone is Part 15 certified. No analog VTXs are Part 15 certified. HD0? Carl probably got that Part 15 certified because, well, no. Could he have even? Maybe he could.
Yeah,
seems like the kind of thing he would do is Part 15 that. Yeah?
The video transmitters are all Part 15 as far as I know, and the goggles don't have to be because they don't retransmit.
They're a receiver. Yeah. Okay, so HD0, Part 15. You're good to go. You don't need a ham license for that. Isn't that nice? Yeah. But to recap, I want to get rid of the myth that if you're below 25 milliwatts or 100 milliwatts or whatever, if you're below some output power, you don't need a ham license. That is not true. That has never been true in the United States. Oh, okay, let's go back and let's get a couple more super chats. Thank you to the guys who are leaving super chats. What's your opinion of the GEP-RC Darkstar 2.0 or 2.0? GEP-RC Darkstar 2.0. I like the GEP-RC Synolog quadcopters a lot. This 2-inch category, it's tricky. These 2-inch quadcopters, these with HD VTXs on board, they're heavy and underpowered. And that doesn't mean that they can't be useful and enjoyable to fly, but they're right on the edge of what I think makes sense. You really have to want, like, I wouldn't buy this just for fun flying, right? I'd buy a 95 millimeter. You really have to want a 2-inch with an O3 on board or something like that to buy something like this for a specific reason. I was flying the FlyLens 85 in that video, and what makes the FlyLens 85 interesting is that they sell a light version, a decased version, and that brings this thing down to like 78 grams, which is actually light enough that it kind of flies okay. What's the Dark Star weigh? $85 grams. It's pretty close. It's pretty close. It might be okay. Yeah. Quad Mods asks, I keep seeing the Fat Shark Dominator Avatar goggles on sale for $530 Canadian. $530? Other than no video in, are they on par with Walksnail? Yes. Yes, they are. Thank you for your $14 Canadian super chat. They are on par in every way. Yeah, image quality, resolution, range, etc. They're completely comparable. Eventually, someday, maybe if Walksnail lives up to their promise, Walksnail will release Gen 2 of the system, which will have better range and penetration. And then the Dominator goggles will not get that update. Only the Goggles X and future goggles will. But who knows when that'll happen, and who knows if you want to make a buying decision based on that. Thank you, County FPV, for a $5 super chat. I finally got a 5-inch after flying Whoops for a while. How can I make my 5-inch be less floaty and more responsive like a Whoop? I want to know your all-up weight, County FPV. What is your all-up weight as flown for your 5-inch? If your all-up weight as flown is more than 700 grams, maybe 700 grams, then I think it's floaty because your idle speed is too high. Your idle speed is going to be Why? Oh, this flight controller is overheating because I'm leaving it plugged in. That's why it keeps frickin' freezing up. Go fig. Your idle speed is going to be in the PID tuning tab. And no, it's going to be in the motors tab. Motors tab, motor idle percent. A motor idle percent of about 5% is pretty typical for a 5-inch. You can drop that down some, but eventually the motors will start to stall. But you could try reducing that, and that'll reduce some floatiness. The other thing is, like, I don't know if you're going to exactly replicate the... You know, I mean, like, a 5-inch isn't going to feel like a tiny whoop. It's not. It's different. If you want it to be agile and responsive, you need to push it around with the props. It weighs more. So you need to tilt the quad and jam and hit the throttle and push it around. It's not going to move exactly. Your throttle management's going to be, you're going to be much more dynamic with the throttle compared to maybe a tiny whoop. Whereas a tiny whoop, I think you're more likely to like hit the throttle and hold it because they're not as powerful and punchy. At the end of the day, if it feels too floaty, get a bigger battery. Get a bigger battery and make it weigh more. And that'll get rid of some of the floatiness. All right. Thank you for 20 euros from RU. So now with Google Translate, I need this for a prototype. The resolution doesn't really matter, but the FOV needs to be bigger. Good point. Can this be done without losses with some kind of lens, fisheye or something? Okay, there's more to this question. RU asks. Oh, thank you for another $5, RU. Dreaming of meeting you sometime. Great content. Do you ever have your hands on, oh, the FT280? I see. I don't know about that, RU. The lens that you can put on a device has to do with the sensor size and the focal distance. So it's possible that a wider lens would give you a wider field of view, but I don't think you're going to get from this ultra narrow field of view to like a wide fisheye. I don't think the sensor is big enough. If you think about it, like the wider the fisheye, kind of like the bigger the sensor needs to be on the back end. Obviously, there are various factors, the barrel length and so forth. I don't think you're going to be able to get from an ultra narrow field of view to an ultra wide field of view on that existing sensor just by swapping the lens. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm not really a designer of the camera, of a camera. The Jack Russell, thank you for £5. I built a 1.6-inch baby tooth type quad. Terrible vibrations, hot motors. Everything's on top of each other. Would tuning help? I guess. Like, but why does it suck so much? Right? Why does it suck so much? Like, it's got to have something to do with the build. Like, you could bring the filter sliders down to the left and it might fix the problem. But I would worry that you had some mechanical issue that was causing the problem, and now you're just sort of putting a crutch on it, right? Like, you see what I'm saying? So I would want to know that the quadcopter was mechanically sound first, and then I would want to think about putting the sliders on it and stuff. Like, I have right here, hang on. I have right here. Here's a 1.6-inch baby tooth style quad. Let's plug it into the computer and let's look at the filters. All right, PID tuning, filter settings. Like, do you see these filters are not radically different than default? The D term is a little lower, right? That's about it. And then if we look at the PIDs, again, the PIDs are not radically different from default. So like if you've got a quadcopter that has terrible vibrations and barely flies, and you start moving those filter sliders to the left because your motors are super hot, you will eventually cool down the motors. But like, why do you have to do that? I think you need to sort that out first, and I think it's going to be something mechanical. You got a capacitor? This thing doesn't have a capacitor. Why would you need a capacitor? You shouldn't need a capacitor on a 1.6. See? Adam D asks, thank you for $10, Adam D. I'm following your build tutorial with the QAVS2 bundle. I bought the Luminar remote ID. I only want to power it. It says 5 to 30 volts DC, 34 volts DC. The wires are thin. Where's a good place to solder the positive and the ground? It seems like it takes whatever voltage battery. You're probably using a 6S battery. It'll take 6S natively. I would probably solder it to the ESC, the battery voltage on the ESC. Frosty, thank you for $5. I'm dipping my toes in Walksnail. Should I get the goggles L or run the VRX on my Attitude V6? Ooh, that's a tough one. I would probably run the VRX on the Attitude V6 because I like the binocular style of goggles better than I like box goggles. But I would want to find out if the latency was going to suck. And I'm not sure if the HDMI input on those goggles has bad latency. So I might change my mind about that. Have you seen the latest Heart of America FPV vid? No. What is it? Thank you, Podcast, for 14 South African Rand. What is it? SWAT drone versus gunman. Oh, I did see that video. I did. It's a super chat.
If you open that on stream, you will get demonetized.
You think so?
They changed policy on gun stuff, yes.
Wow. Flying a drone for the U.S. Marshals. All right. Well, let's not do that. Heart of America is Sean Ames. He is, what's his position at MultiGP? He's a big muckety-muck at MultiGP. I don't know what his exact position is. And he flew a drone there was a barricaded shooter inside a house, and he flew an FPV drone in to help search for the shooter and help the marshals find the guy and take the guy in. That's the short version. It is interesting content, to be sure. I've seen footage like this before. I remember way back when in 2018, there were two guys who came to the Sarasota, rather, quad camp. And they said, we're from a SWAT team and we're doing FPV stuff and we're using tiny whoops to search houses before the guys go in. And I thought, well, frick me. If that isn't like the most unexpected thing I ever heard, like, because when you think at the time, I was like, well, like, what kind of a drone would a SWAT team use? A big scary drone, probably with like a gun on it. And they're like, a little tiny whoop, we're sending it in. I was like, oh, that did not expect that. It is a lot of times this footage isn't published, so it's interesting to see somebody from the FPV community publishing footage like this, and interesting. You could check it out if you want and see how you feel about it. 8.4 thousand views. We're not going to risk demonetization by opening it up on stream, but there you go. And I would say it'd be interesting to see how people feel about this. Interesting because, like, I don't know. People have been doing this, well, since at least 2018 was the first I heard of it. And I have never seen anybody say that anyone is ruining the hobby because they're using their FPV skills to help the police, like, search buildings. Now, I mean, maybe you feel that way. Nobody disowned whatever, FPV pilot was training a SWAT team. Oh, somebody was training the SWAT team. I just told you the guys came to quad camp in 2018, these two guys. I was like, oh, hey, what do you guys do? What are you doing here? And they're like, we work for the Sarasota SWAT team or the Orlando SWAT team or wherever. I was like, well, isn't that interesting? It's interesting. I guess times change. People have different perspectives. But it was interesting to me to have that thought. The little light that comes on over there when I'm being passive aggressive and everybody knows it is flashing. So I'll just move on. We're gonna, yeah. I appreciate Sean Ames sharing that footage, though, because it is a perspective that a lot of people don't really know is out there. Thank you, Oliver Buckland, for 2 Swiss francs. Walksnail 1S OSD shows 2 volts. How to use Betaflight OSD, not the VTX. Well, you could get Betaflight. Oh, sorry, wrong screen. You can get Betaflight OSD working. I mean, I can show you. FPV drones have been... Sorry about that. Let me mute that. So here is my beginner build playlist. And there is a video here, part 6, Walksnail video transmitter. This shows how to wire up the Walksnail video transmitter and takes you through all of the steps of how to update the firmware, set up the OSD, and everything. So if you're trying to get your Walksnail OSD working, you're just going to ignore the wiring instructions because that doesn't pertain to your build. You are going to need to connect your video transmitter to your flight controller. But if you're not using the same flight controller as me, then the exact solder pads you use won't be the same. And then, then just set it up according to these instructions. That's how to do it. Build an FPV drone in 2023, part 6. That's the video you want. Chanel, thank you for a $1 super chat. Is iNav as good as Betaflight? I want the return to home and position hold, but I don't know if it's worth using iNav over Betaflight. iNav's acro performance is not quite as good. It's still good enough for a lot of people. You should also keep in mind that Betaflight 4.5's GPS rescue is not as good as iNav. But let me put it this way. Betaflight 4.5's GPS rescue is about as good as iNav's acro performance. Right? So, like, if you want the real reason to choose iNav, if all you want is return to home, I think Betaflight 4.5 is good enough. But if you want position hold, waypoint missions, altitude hold, all that other stuff that iNav has, that's why you would go with iNav. Okay. Aryu says, I think I understand what you mean. Thank you for another 10 euros, Ara. Thank you for another 10 euros. Yeah, we're talking about that thermal camera. Appreciate your donations. You've been very generous today. Joshua, are you able to speak about foldable props? Yes, I am able to speak about them. In general, I think that they seemed like a cool idea, and most people moved away from them. I suspect they had durability issues and balance issues, but I just don't see hardly anybody using them. Even people who would benefit like from the smaller size tend to stay away from them. About the only time I think that foldable props really make sense is if you also have a foldable frame and you're trying to get that frame down as small as it can be. Werewolf Tactical LLC is looking at the Infra Caddy Cam. Well, with a name like Werewolf Tactical, I can't imagine why you would want a low light camera. Can I just hook it up to an existing VTX? Yes, you can. The Cadix Infra is an analog camera. It has a funny box that the wires come out of, but as far as it's an analog camera in every way that matters. It's just an analog camera with an extra little box. So yes, it will hook up to any analog VTX. Thank you for a $5 super chat, Werewolf Tactical. Okay, back to the regular chats. We're done with the super chats for a little while. I'm going to be flying with about 20 1S batteries. Can I just put them in a LiPo bag and bring them in my carry-on? Yes. You absolutely must have them in your carry-on. Do not put them in the check bags. But yes, you just put them in there. And frankly, if they're little tiny whoop batteries, no one will even give them a second look. Can I show you something? Hang on, it reminds me of something. Let me show you what I traveled with just recently. Oh, so I went through an airport with this. What do you think, guys? Does that look suspicious? This is I actually made this battery. I made this battery. Like literally from individual cells. I put double-sided tape to hold the cells together. I soldered the tabs by hand. Soldered on the balance lead, everything. I handmade this battery. I'm so proud. You can see I signed it. But this battery this is not a LiPo. This is not a LiPo. How many milliamp hours do you think this battery is? Hold on, let me help you. Let me give you a banana for scale. Perfect. This right here is a 3500 3S. This is a 6S. How many milliamp hours do you think this battery is? Probably be better to weigh it. 4,500? 5,000? Yeah, those are good guesses. This is a 10,600 milliamp hour battery. 10,000. It's a 10,000 milliamp hour battery. This battery has approximately 3 times the energy density of this battery. Because it's not a LiPo. Well, what is it then? Well, I'll tell you. It is an Amprius silicon anode lithium polymer battery. Hang on. Let me find the data sheet for this. No, it'll be in the Learning Center. Are we? Learning Center. Amprius SA08. These are SA08 cells. So this is a nuke battery chemistry, and it is like there are better battery chemistries you could buy if you want to pay $50,000 for a battery to go on your satellite. But as far as commercial availability, like if you want to buy 10,000 cells to make packs with, this is the absolute best energy density cell you can buy today. And I was fortunate enough to get my hands on some, and I get to build a pack out of them. Maybe you'll hear more about that in the future. But it means that we have a 10,600 milliamp hour pack in the size of a roughly 3,500 milliamp hour pack. That's pretty freaking cool. Oh, by the way, let's see here. Products, these are in the green line. This is, here we go. That's a 12S, though. That's not a 6S. Hold on, let me find the 6S version. Well, you could do the math. No, this website is so slow. Why is this website so gosh dang slow? Stop being slow. Stop being slow. 10,600, 10.8. Here's a 6S. There we go. That's about right. This is a $720 battery. There's a $700 battery. I'm holding a $700 battery in my hand right now. Suck it. Oh. Yeah. So, there you go. So for those who say, why doesn't somebody come up with a better battery chemistry? Well, someone did. And if you want it, you're going to frickin' pay for it. Oh, and by the way, this is good for 30 amps continuous. 30 amps continuous. Yeah, they're not like They're not like ultra high C rate cells. They're made for density, not for power. So 30 amps continuous. So that's kind of cool. Thought you guys would be interested to know that exists and someone is working with it. Every time we talk about lipos, people are like, why doesn't somebody make a better battery? And the answer is, it's hard. But someone did, and theoretically, you can buy them right now if you want to spend $700 on a battery that only does 30 amps continuous. It could do like 80 amps for 10 seconds. It's more about heat buildup than anything else. You want to pay that. It'll get you roughly triple the energy density. It's kind of cool. What am I going to use it for? Well, right now, I'm using it I'm hooking it up to a USB power bank adapter, and I'm using it to charge my phone. Because that's less than 30 amps. And 10,000 milliamp hours in a package this small, I could recharge my phone so many times. I'm using a $700 best lithium polymer cells or lithium ion cells in the world to charge my phone. Okay. Triple, is it not triple? What is it? Maybe double. Maybe it's double. Okay, fine. What's the watt hours? What's the watt hours per kilogram? Watt hours per kilogram. Energy density, 360 watt hours per kilogram. Samsung S50S data sheet. What's the energy density of a Samsung 50S? I just want the data sheet, you monkeys. Density. It's not there. Oh, here's the data sheet. Dagnabbit. Why would you not show me the energy density? I just want the answer. 1.42 kilowatt per kilogram volumetric. Energy density, 260 watt hours per kilogram. 260. Okay, it's not triple. That's my bad. 360. Oh. Is the C rating better? Maybe we should compare it to a Molly cell. That would be more fair. I don't know. Anyway, it's more. It's not triple. I guess I was wrong. I don't know where I got the 3x number from. It's 3x something. Okay, moving on. Daniel, it's not, I don't know if it's similar to a LiFePO. It's silicone anode. I don't know what the hell that means, though. So it is a lithium ion chemistry with a silicone anode. It can be discharged. The discharge is down to like the minimum voltage is 2.55 volts. And charges to 4.2 volts. And there you go. Anyway. Fun. Let's see here. How often do you change frame hardware? When it breaks. I don't preemptively change frame hardware. Like if I strip a bolt or if a bolt breaks, then I replace it. If a bolt falls out while I'm flying, then I replace it. But I don't ever really... Eventually, I'll just change the whole frame. Like, because I broke something. Are there any goggles beside the V2 goggles and box goggles that let you wear glasses? No, I don't think so. None that come to mind. You're going to want to just use diopter lenses inside the goggles, in my opinion. Invid72 says, I was watching a video on lithium-ion batteries that said that silicon anode batteries were 4 to 5 years away from mass production. I can tell you that Upgrade Energy, it has oh, I don't know how many. I'm not going to... They have mass production levels of cells. Like maybe by mass production, they mean millions of cells. Like right now, Upgrade Energy has a lot of cells. Enough that you would go, wow, that's a lot of cells. But for a company like Upgrade Energy who sells batteries all day, it's not as many as they would like to have. Okay? Does that make sense? And they can't get any more because Amprius, they can't just buy as many as they want from Amprius. Amprius is like, you get some, you get some. Okay, so maybe you could say they're not in mass production in the sense that you can buy as many as you want, but they are in mass production in that it is like, it is a commercial product that is being produced. It's not just something that came out of a lab. Ollie wants me to compare it to the Molicel P50B. Well, let's see here. Maybe. So here's the SA08. You want the P50B. The P50B is, I think, going to be a higher power but lower density cell, is my guess. But let's find out. Is there a data sheet available for the P50B? Like the specs or whatever? Tentative datasheet specs are P50B, 400 watt and 25 amp charging. Cycle life will be short. It doesn't seem like the actual datasheet for the P50B is available. 4850 milliamp hours. Yeah, so it's better, I think, to compare it to the SA10, which is another 18650 size cell. So the SA10 is 4,000 milliamp hours compared to 4850 for the P50B. Discharge blanks continuous 8 amps 2C. And this one it's more like a high power cell, so it's going to have a higher C rate. 60 amp non-continuous discharge. That doesn't really mean anything. That's burst discharge. It doesn't seem like there's a datasheet out there for the P50B that's actually, yeah, so I don't know if you can really compare them. Okay. All right. Do you think FPV video, HD FPV video, affected new people getting into the hobby? I know it's divided people in the hobby and caused more hate with each other. I don't think that HD video divided people and caused hate. Because before, I think there will always be people who are more interested in being angry and being divisive than in having a good time. Those people were angry and divisive before HD came along. They just were angry and divisive about something else. And then HD came along, and those people decided to be angry and divisive about HD. I assure you, there are flight fields out there are flight clubs out there, that when an HD person shows up, they're like, welcome, my friend. Yes, here. Here's what and they just integrate new pilots. They help everybody get along. My God, why do people like hate HD pilots? Oh, they interfere with me and knock me out of the air. Oh, you mean like analog pilots have been doing to each other since FPV was a thing? Oh my God, I can't tell you how many times before digital was a thing, I was flying and somebody knocked me out of the air. So, like, this idea, oh, digital's worse. Well, you don't understand. Digital pilots are stupid and don't care. They're just dumbasses who bought DJI, DJI. I don't need to learn anything. I just bought DJI. Here we go, plugging in, fitting it. I think somebody just crashed. Right? That's stupid. That's stupid. That's just a stereotype. And who fucking cares? Pardon my swearing. Oh my God. Do you know what, even if that's true, which I'm not saying it's true, do you know what DJI did? It's got a whole lot more people excited about FPV. It got them coming out to the flight fields. And when they got there, they didn't know a damn thing. And you know what we did? We told them to F off and we kicked them in the nuts. And that, I don't understand why FPV is dying, everybody. Help me out. Help me understand this. Right? No. Digital FPV didn't divide people. Shitty, divisive people divided people. I'm just as annoyed as you. I am 100% the frequency police. I will stop flying. And I will be, guys, can we get our flight lines sorted out? What effing channel are you on? Can we stop powering up on each other? Guys, I had somebody at Quad Camp, an event that I was running, that they had paid to be there, and I was running the event. And they were just plugging in and stomping on people. And I was like, listen, guys, you got to get our flight lines sorted out. And they were locals to the flight field. So they were like, it's not really how we do it here. And I'm like, well, I get it. It's annoying when you're getting stomped on and knocked out of the air. The answer is to educate people. Because if the answer is, F you freaking digital pilot, you get out of here, you don't belong here, and then you both get a bandana and you tie each other's wrists together like in that Michael Jackson music video, and then you get your switchblades out and you dance around and you stab each other, and whichever one of you is alive gets to use the channel, and the other one goes to the grave. No, be stupid. So yeah, I think HD brought a lot of new people into the hobby. That's what I think. I think a lot of people who looked at FPV and went, "What is this garbage? What are you doing to my eyeballs? This looks like shit." A lot of people looked at DJI and went, "Whoa, okay, that's what I've been waiting for," and they got into the hobby because DJI released a digital video transmitter. I know that's a hot take. You feel free. Oh, but Bardwell supports DJI. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at reality and saying what I see. That's not a political position. That's not an ideological position. Reality is not an ideological position unless your ideology is to deny reality. And I submit that I don't have proof, but I submit there's a compelling argument that the release of the DJI digital FPV system brought more people in to FPV than would have been brought into FPV if it had never existed. And when those people got here, some of them got a warm welcome and some of them got kicked in the nuts because they didn't come in through the same channel and the same pathway that you came in, and clearly yours was better. When you showed up at the FPV field, you didn't know shit. And people said, welcome. Some of them kicked you in the nuts a little bit, maybe. But people helped you. I know. I'm speaking for myself. When I got into FPV, I didn't know shit. The very first question I posted on RC groups was, I don't understand why I didn't have my idle speed set correctly on my ESC. So when I plugged in, my motor was going tick, 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 tick. And I was like, oh, what is this? I didn't know that idle speed was a thing and you had to calibrate your ESCs. And I posted on RC groups and somebody helped me. And now, 10 years later, here I am. And that's why you will not catch me saying, if you came in through DJI and you didn't spend years learning how to solder and in RC groups, you didn't do all that shit, you're not legitimate, you're not welcome here. You won't catch me saying that. Anyway. And if you don't want to be that guy, if you don't want to be the guy who helps all the noobs, I get it. It's exhausting. Feel free to just keep your mouth shut while someone else helps the noobs. Absolutely. No judgment whatsoever. But if the noobs show up with their DJI goggles and you go, get out of here, then you're the problem. Ooh, I had a little rant in me. How about that? Oh, and also, those noobs who didn't learn how FPV video works and so they're stomping on you with their new DJI goggles, you didn't learn how DJI FPV works, did ya? Because I don't have a problem flying with analog, DJI, Walksnail, whatever. I know how to avoid the interference, but you were so mad that things changed that you refused to learn. Some of you. I don't know who I'm talking to here. Somebody made up in my head. Okay. Okay. Wow, we're 7 minutes left in the live stream. What the hell happened to the last half hour? Let me get the last of the super chats. We got a few more super chats coming. Thank you, Koala, for a $1 super chat. I started learning FPV and everything in 2017, especially from Mr. Steele, but I quit in 2020. Last thing I remember is when the Meteor 65 launched. Where can I relearn everything? I don't know, man. Start from scratch, right? How did you learn everything the first time? The information is out there. Just pick one thing that you want to do and start looking up how to do it. Step 1. What is ExpressLRS? Okay, go. I know how to bind ExpressLRS, etc. Just pick one thing and start learning it. I have a DJI Avata 2 with Goggles 3. Are there cameras available for FPV builds that support the 04 Goggles 3? No. The Goggles 3 currently only work with the Avata 2, the DJI Mini, and the DJI something. There are like 3 DJI drones they work with and nothing else. Someday, probably, they will work with a standalone air unit. Probably, if history is any guide. We don't know when that will be, and maybe it will be never, but we don't think so. Potcast asks, what do you think about building a 6S Tiny Whoop using a 6S battery built from 1S scales? I think that's silly. I don't think there's really I think the battery voltage... Like, what kV motor would that have to be? You'd have to have so many windings in that tiny, tiny little motor. I don't think there's a point in doing that. Not a Tiny Whoop. Like, a 6S 750 milliamp hour battery, or a 6S 550 milliamp hour battery, like, that exists, but that's like a 2-inch or a 3-inch quadcopter, not a 65 millimeter. Speaking of energy density, has anyone seen one of the first solid-state batteries to hit the market? Interesting. Usually the issue with these ultra-high density batteries is the C rate is terrible. And so they're no good for quadcopters or stuff because they don't provide enough current. What are your thoughts on the AOS 7 Evo? Chris Rosser's 7-inch motor. The Chris Rosser's AOS motors, the Supernova motors. Oh no, that's a frame. Oh, hold on. The AOS 7. This would not be the 7-inch frame I would pick. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Wrong one. Wrong one. I thought it was the other one with the weird vertical arms. It's not. I'm still not sure if it would be the one I would pick. I mean, I guess he's probably optimized it for, like, no jello and everything. That's probably good. The AOS frames are not the most durable, but on a 7-inch, that's less of an issue because you're not, like, supposed to really crash 7-inch hard anyway. So that's probably fine. I would be real curious if he has, like, fully optimized the resonance so there's, like, no jello. That would be, like, the big reason to buy the AOS 7 and the big selling point for Chris. Let's see here. Eric Toth, thank you for a $20 super chat. Appreciate you there, man. Eric's, I don't know, it just felt like giving me $20. Eric's, you could just come over and give me a $20 bill, but you know I won't take it from you. I'll be like, let's go to lunch. You can buy me lunch or something. But then I'll like try to buy lunch. Eric lives in Kingsport. He's about 2 hours from me, and he comes out and flies sometimes. Thank you, Eric. You're very generous. Okay. Whew. Well, that was an interesting last half hour of the... I don't know what happened. I do know what happened. I'm tired of people... We talk about dividing the FPV hobby in a time when we need to be united more than ever. It really bugs me when somebody says, if you do X, then you're not like a real part of the FPV. Or they say, like, the community. If I could just banish the word the community from everyone's vocabulary forever. Because what the community means is, I am speaking my own opinion, and I want to represent myself as if there's a huge number of people who agree with me. And anyone who disagrees with me is not a legitimate part of the community. Which, if you think about it, is a pretty shitty thing to do. Like, if you're the head of a labor union, and you've been elected as the head of the labor union, and you speak for the labor union, then when you say, I speak for these guys, that has validity. But people just get up on the internet and they say, the community, blah, 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 blah. And then they just spout whatever they think. And it's bullshit. And a lot of time when you're doing that, you're saying that anybody who doesn't agree with you is, by inference, not part of the community. So you're dividing the community. And that's the last thing we need. And I guess I got that running around in the back of my head when you talked about dividing the community with HD and stuff. No one should speak for the community. The community is incredibly diverse, and lots of people don't agree with you. And just because you make a statement on the internet and a bunch of people seem like they agree with you, doesn't mean you speak for the community. I say that I'm not. People are going to think I'm calling out specific creators, and that's not true. That's drama, and I'm not doing that. I'm actually thinking of people who like come into my inbox and they say, "The community wants to know," blah 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 blah, and what they mean is, I want to know. But I think it will lend me additional legitimacy if I represent myself as if there's a horde of people behind me, and it's bullshit. Anyway. The community. You're bad for the community. The fuck does that even mean? The community. I guarantee you, the minute I were to say that I speak for the community, you know, guys, I don't think long range is that important to the FPV community. Fixed wings. The FPV community isn't that into fixed wings. I actually call that one because I said that once a long time ago. And people who flew FPV fixed wings were like, who the are you to try to speak for us? And I was like, oh, good point. Got a little bit of a check there. Took it to heart. If I'm not allowed to speak for the community, because you know what the community is? It's everyone who flies. If you put a set of FPV goggles on your face and you fly FPV and you like FPV, you're part of the community. Think about that for a while you go watch Aaron Ciotti's stream. Because my stream is over. Bye, everybody.